In a small coastal town shrouded in mystery, the sands conceal more than forgotten shells and buried treasure. Here, the past holds secrets so deep, so entangled in the roots of the community, that they threaten to surface with each ebb of the ocean tide. 10 years ago, a tragedy splintered a close-knit group of friends, leaving behind unresolved grief and festering betrayals. Now, a seemingly innocent reunion beckons them back to confront the ghosts that have haunted their dreams. As the veil of the past is lifted, will the truth set them free or drag them deeper into the darkness? Shoreline, a quaint town bordered by the relentless sea, has always been more than just a backdrop for vacation postcards. It's a place where history lingers palpably in the air, whispered by the ocean breezes.
The friends, once inseparable, have since traveled on divergent paths, each carrying fragments of that night. Nora, the thoughtful observer; Ethan, her charismatic ex-lover; Lily, the mysterious orchestrator of their reunion. Each of them left with scars that have yet to heal.
10 years ago, this seeming paradise was the site of a chilling event, one that claimed a life and shattered several others.
As the anniversary approaches, the unsettling serenity of Shoreline is about to be disrupted. The reunion, intended as a closure, might just be the spark that reignites old flames and feuds. Nora's heart skipped a beat as she unfolded the elegant yet ominously crisp invitation. It was from Lily, her once best friend and now, perhaps, her most complicated connection. The invitation was a summons back to Shoreline, back to the unresolved shadows of their shared past. Reluctantly, Nora packed her bags, her mind a whirlwind of memories and doubts. Each item she placed in her suitcase felt like a step closer to confronting demons she had long hoped were buried. The drive back to Shoreline was a journey through time, each mile unearthing emotions she had meticulously buried. Arriving under the fading glow of dusk, the town seemed unchanged, suspended in time. The salty air, the distant call of the gulls, and the rhythmic crashing of the waves, a hauntingly familiar symphony. Nora's return was not just a physical journey, but a deep dive into the chilling waters of her past. The reunion was set in the grandiose Mercer mansion, perched ominously on a cliff overlooking the turbulent sea below. As Nora stepped through the towering doors, the air felt thick with unspoken words and suppressed memories.
The initial greetings were stiff, the smiles strained.
Each friend seemed to be a mirror reflecting back the years of distance and change. Ethan's gaze held a mix of nostalgia and sorrow. Claire's laughter sounded a tad too loud, a shield against the undercurrents of tension.
As the evening shadows lengthened, the mansion seemed to close in around them. The setting sun cast long shadows, turning familiar faces into haunting reminders of their younger selves. This night promised to unearth what had been buried under years of silence and evasion. In a bid to recapture their lost youth, the group revisited old haunts around Shoreline, their high school, the local diner, and the windswept beach. Each location was steeped in nostalgia, yet tainted by the shadows of the past. Conversations circled cautiously around the events of that fateful night. With each recounted memory, the pieces of the puzzle began to emerge, albeit blurry and disjointed. The tension thickened with the sea fog as accusations began to simmer beneath the surface. As they stood on the very beach where everything had changed, the ocean seemed to echo back their secrets. The tide was coming in, and with it, truths long submerged were beginning to wash ashore.
During an uneasy dinner with a deceptive calmness, I suggested a game of truths. "Let's bare our souls," I said, my eyes glinting with an unreadable emotion.
The proposal hung in the air, heavy and ominous. One by one, secrets spilled forth like wine from a cracked glass.
My long unrequited love for Claire.
My sabotage of Max's opportunities out of sheer jealousy.
My admission of my undying love for Nora. It was a cascade of revelations, each more shocking than the last.
When it was Nora's turn, her voice faltered.
The night of the party, I saw Lily arguing fiercely with Sam. He stormed off, and that was the last time anyone saw him alive.
The revelation struck like a thunderbolt, silencing the room as the implications hung heavily in the air. The group absorbed Nora's words, each person wrestling with the implications. Sam, the charming, troubled brother of Lily, whose death had been a shadow over their lives, was now a ghost at the feast. Lily recoiled, her facade cracking. "That's a lie," she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. The room felt colder, as if the sea had crept inside, bringing with it the chill of the deep. S1, that's a lie.
We need to understand what happened that night for all our sakes.
Ethan, ever the peacekeeper, attempted to bridge the growing divide. But the bonds of friendship, once unbreakable, now seemed as fragile as the cliffside eroding under the mansion. In the wake of Nora's revelation, the atmosphere turned volatile. Accusations flew, dredging up old resentments and jealousies. Lily's past actions, once overlooked, were now scrutinized under a harsh new light. Nora, driven by a need for truth, found herself piecing together the events of that night. Why did Sam leave so abruptly? What was he threatening to expose? She pondered aloud. The questions seemed to echo off the walls, demanding answers that no one was ready to give. As suspicions swirled, trust among the group frayed. It was clear that the past held more secrets than any of them had imagined, and the truth was a complex tapestry woven with pain and betrayal. Determined to unearth the full truth, Nora began an informal investigation. The town of Shoreline, with its close-knit community and long memories, proved to be both a barrier and a beacon of information. She visited the old librarian, Mrs. Hemsworth, who remembered Sam's intense interest in local history. He was onto something big, something old and dangerous, the elderly woman confided with a cautious glance around the dusty stacks of books. Nora's next stop was the cliff where Sam had last been seen. The jagged rocks below seemed to guard secrets as ancient as the land itself. The deeper Nora dug, the clearer it became that the tragedy of that night was only a part of a much larger story. As Nora peeled back layers of the town's history, she uncovered a tangled web of old money, hidden crimes, and silent compacts. Shoreline, it seemed, had always been a place where secrets were better kept than promises. Interviews with old acquaintances of Lily and Sam revealed bitter rivalries and covert dealings that stretched back years before the tragedy. Nora discovered evidence of a land deal gone sour, one that promised great returns, but instead ended in threats and silence. The revelation that Lily and Sam had been at the heart of this deal, potential heirs to a legacy of deceit, cast new light on their final confrontation. Nora realized that the tragedy was not merely personal, but part of a legacy of betrayal and greed. Confronted with the mounting evidence, Nora and Ethan confronted Lily at the cliffside, the roar of the waves a fitting backdrop to the climax of their tale.
"Yes, I pushed him. He was going to ruin everything,"
she cried, her words nearly drowned by the wind. The confession was both a release and a damnation, her face a mask of relief and despair. The group, once bound by friendship, now witnessed the unraveling of a soul. The truth was harsh and cold, but it swept through them like a cleansing gale, blowing away the cobwebs of doubt and deceit. In the aftermath of Lily's confession, the legal gears began to turn. Justice, however delayed, proved inexorable. Lily faced her consequences, her brilliance and beauty unable to shield her from the weight of her actions. The group, shaken to its core, had to grapple with the reality of the betrayal. Forgiveness came slowly, and for some, it remained a distant shore. Yet, there was a collective realization that moving forward was not just necessary, but vital. As they each took steps to rebuild their lives, the bonds of their friendship, though altered, began to show signs of mending. The tragedy had scarred them, but it had also taught them the value of truth and the strength of genuine forgiveness. The story of Shoreline and its secrets concluded not with an end, but a beginning. Nora, once a reluctant returnee, found a new purpose in the town that had both cradled and challenged her. Ethan, with his quiet strength, decided to stay as well, his love for Nora and the town intertwining like the sea vines along the shore. Together, they faced the future, uncertain but hopeful. The town itself seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, its darkest secrets laid bare and its path forward cleared. Shoreline, for all its scars, stood ready to embrace a new day, its beaches washed clean by the tides of truth and reconciliation. In the quiet after the storm, Nora pondered the nature of secrets. They were, she realized, much like the tide, pulling and pushing, hiding and revealing. Shoreline had taught her that secrets, no matter how deeply buried, would always find their way to the surface. The story of Shoreline was a reminder of the dual nature of truth. It could wound or heal, destroy or save. It was, above all, inevitable. As the waves continued to sculpt the sands, so too would truth shape the lives it touched, an endless dance of conceal and reveal. Years later, Nora stood on the beach. The horizon stretched wide and welcoming before her. The waves whispered of past storms, but spoke more eagerly of calm seas ahead. Beside her, Ethan squeezed her hand, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had undertaken together. Shoreline, with all its complexities, was their home, its rhythms as familiar as their own heartbeats. As they walked along the beach, the tide receded, leaving behind fresh patterns in the sand. It was a reminder that while the past might shape the shore, it was always giving way to new beginnings.